Welcome to Better with Art. I'm Melinda, and I'm here to encourage you to reclaim your creativity and practice creative self-care with weekly small art prompts that can be done in an art journal or on paper if you don't have one. This week I have a Sharpie and crayons, but just the white one for today. Watercolor, my typical Crayola Basic 8, because reclaiming your creativity doesn't need to cost a lot of money, and they're vibrant and fun. I also have new watercolor brushes, which typically for Better with Art, I wouldn't be using my fancier brushes. However, this is what I had packed. I'll be home by the time you see this, but right now I am at camp. And I am reasonably sure I am going to love these watercolor brushes, which, as well as the other typical items, I will link to in the description. The first thing we will do is draw a picture with our Sharpie or other water-resistant pen or marker that you have. I'm going to draw a flower garden. And I think I'll use my typical single line drawing. You can draw whatever makes you happy. As I'm drawing more, I wonder if this particular style for my flowers will be ideal for this project, but I'll find out. I may have gone a little larger than ideal, but I bet it'll also be interesting. So I have some flowers. Let's make my line work more cohesive. Now I'm going to take my white crayon and echo some of the lines that are already there. And yes, it will be a little difficult to see, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be perfect. As with anything in our art journal, because our art journals are safe places for us to experiment and express ourselves without fear of what others will think. I neglected to mention that I have my handy spray bottle. Yours doesn't have to be this big to wet my watercolors. I have some fun mixes already here that I might use. Let's see what size brush. I think since I have a bigger one than I usually have, I will use that. So now it's just a matter of play. Let your colors blend. You don't have to follow any of the shapes. But you can. You may have already guessed that part of this project is wax resist. is you'll have your black outlines and white highlights. For the watercolor. Is resisted by the wax of your crayon. So while that dries, I think I'll try another approach with this and just draw some random, organic shapes. Again, can't see them very well. And, well, I'm a little hard on the equipment, apparently. Trying to make things. Wow. And just do a fun watercolor wash. One of the fun things about using the Crayolas or other watercolor paints, but it seems particularly satisfying when you're starting with so many rather intense colors also, to create such lovely new colors by mixing. So if you've been around a while, you've heard me talk about how mixing complementary colors like purple and yellow tone each of the other down. You can create some great grays like that, but you can also get very interesting colors. I guess you could say are working their way toward gray. But complementary colors mute each other. So green and red. And orange and blue are the two we haven't used yet. So if you have the option to tape down your page today, that could be helpful. As you can see, mine is curling much more this time than last because I'm using more water. You may have noticed I remembered to cover my work surface, except that's simply because I was working on something else before this. As always, paper towels and shop towels are our friends. I think with this one, take up some excess water and add another layer. Maybe work within the shapes that are there more now to highlight them with a nice watercolor wash background I created. Again, today's project is total experimentation for me. I saw an idea. I decided to play with it. You can play with it how you see fit and make it your own. definitely feel like this one is missing a little something. And I'd like to take advantage of the thicker areas of paint, leaving more vivid color. However, as this is a Better with Art prompt, I also know that you may be here without a lot of time. So I always try to share projects that you can have a finished product relatively quickly if you don't have a lot of time. But if you do, you can spend more time with. I'm liking that color blending and creating the darker center and tips of the flower petals. Maybe before I turn back around to the previous painting, I will darken up the tips of my leaves. Let's add a little green. I like this purple going into it too. Not quite there. I think I'll do something I usually don't do and add some black. It's interesting. Let's see. Another way this project wouldn't seem like a rush is by using a smaller brush. Okay, I like that. That's fun. Let's carefully turn back around. And I think with this one, I will also add some details. Looks like my white could have been done a little more effectively. But yes, it's totally subjective. The important thing is to take the time to practice creative self-care. To practice self-care creatively. We are not one-dimensional. And creativity is a vital part of our identity. Mental health is because we are multifaceted beings. Really requires is the word that keeps coming to mind, but that makes it sound, I don't know, harsh. In the treatment of mental health disorders, mental illness, depression, anxiety, dealing with trauma, PTSD, and just being our best and functioning at our best requires a holistic approach. Physical, making sure we are not eating junk and we're drinking enough and getting exercise. Mental and emotional, we need to stimulate our brains, be lifelong learners. Emotional, we need to accept our emotions and their validity, but not allow them to run us. We need to set boundaries. Spiritual. I can't answer that question for you. But as you have probably picked up from my statement that we are made in the image of the Creator, I am a Christian. And like in art, I believe what I have found here is worth sharing. I don't share a lot in this type of video because I want everyone to feel welcome and not make assumptions. About me based on their experience of people who also claim the title of Christian. And I am kind of getting off on a tangent. Reclaiming my faith and working toward, trusting toward, walking toward a deeper understanding has also been transformative for me. And I believe we are not just physical beings. There is more to us. Therefore, we need to care for that spiritual part. And a tricky one for me is social. I can be kind of a hermit. Which is based both in my natural tendencies and my personal experience. Some of which is trauma-based. And if your experience with people can make people difficult for you, you're not alone. But we still aren't our healthiest if we keep ourselves totally separate from others. And if we're not mindful of how our actions affect others. We can't just be consumers in relationships. So physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social. I think sometimes something that gets neglected is creative. We need to be making things, adding things of value to the world. And taking time to feed that part of ourselves so we can show up better in all of our responsibilities. I know you've heard various ways of it being expressed, like you can't pour from an empty cup, you have to put on your oxygen mask first. Taking a few minutes to sit down and make a simple watercolor sketch, play with a Sharpie and a crayon, and throw on color as you see fit, it helps. It's good for you, and because it's good for you, it's good for those around you. because you can interact with others from a place of greater health. And this did not go how I thought it was going to go, and that's okay. We all need to be reminded at times that creativity is important and it's not a waste of time. And this I thought was going to be more big areas of bold color. Where I thought I was going doesn't matter. This is where I ended up. And I love it. And it gave me a chance to just breathe, which can be a difficult thing to come by with all of our busyness. I don't know what you will be dealing with this week, but I encourage you to take the time to practice creative self-care with art making. So you can feel better, more your true self. Taking time to make art is not a waste of time. Make art, friend.